How's it going, everybody? Texas Man here. I hope that you guys are all having a great day. If you guys would, please give this video a thumbs up. If you guys do really enjoy it, subscribe, of course, if you guys have not already. Also, do me the biggest favor of all, hit that bell notification button so you guys don't miss out on future videos or streams here on the channel. And as always, if you guys would, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys have any movies or TV shows you guys are interested in me covering here on the channel, please let me know in the comments down below. And enjoy my review of the Ahsoka show. So as always, guys, we're going to be talking positives and negatives, and we are going to be discussing all 8 episodes of the Ahsoka show. Of course, this show is on Disney Plus exclusively. Hopefully, it'll get a physical release on DVD and Blu-ray. And of course, the show was released in 2023. I'm going to give a review score of every single episode, and then I'm going to dive into the entire show and let you guys know my thoughts and opinions about it, of course, positives and negatives. Episode 1, I'm giving an 8 out of 10. Episode 2, an 8 out of 10. Episode 3, a 9 out of 10. Episode 4, a 9 out of 10. Episode 5, an 8 out of 10. Episode 6, 10 out of 10. I think it's the best episode. Episode 7, a 9 out of 10. And episode 8, the finale, episode 8, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. And overall, I'm going to give the score of the entire show an 8 out of 10. Overall, I thought this was a really fun show. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett disasters that those were. There is a lot of things in here that I don't like, but there are a lot of things that I really did enjoy. And first of all, I want to kind of leap forward. I think the ending does something kind of interesting. It definitely does a thing where you're kind of happy at certain aspects, and in other aspects you're kind of like, okay, it feels like a setup. This is, of course, the review of Season 1. There might be a Season 2, or this show's ending, because it does have a gigantic cliffhanger ending, is either going to lead into a Season 2, or it's going to lead into the Dave Filoni Star Wars movie. I know for a fact that we are getting Mandalorian Season 4. We're getting that Star Wars Acolyte show. We're supposed to, rumored to be getting another Star Wars show on Disney Plus. And then we will be getting that Dave Filoni Star Wars movie. Me personally, I don't want another Ahsoka show. I don't want a Season 2. The way this show ends, I think it does a great job leading into like the heir to the Empire kind of novels. And I feel like this show is trying to set up a retcon of the sequel trilogy where Thrawn is the villain, and or other things that we have seen from Star Wars Legends finally be canonized. I feel like they're trying to wipe the sequel trilogy films of 7, 8, and 9 because those were disasters. I feel like they're trying to do a retcon of that, and I'm happy about that. But how they're going about it, it feels like they're just taking way too long. And I don't want them to retcon everything via a Disney Plus only show, because not everybody has Disney Plus. And I feel like a big new Star Wars movie that brings in characters and elements from not only existing Star Wars material, but bring in some legends. So it feels refreshing for those that actually read all those books, but also it'll be kind of interesting to see new kind of concepts and ideas. Bring in some Clone Wars and Rebels characters and locations. The show ends, spoilers, I'm going to be obviously talking spoilers in this review, but the show ends with the fact that Thrawn has returned to the main galaxy, and he is setting up what seems to be his primary operations of the new Empire, or / the Final Order, on Dathomir, which is really interesting. Ezra does show up in the show. He ends up escaping, and it ends with him reuniting with Chopper and Hera. Unfortunately, they kind of do a swap where Thrawn and Ezra escape the unknown regions of the galaxy, and now Sabine and Ahsoka are trapped in the unknown regions on that planet. I kind of think it's kind of silly that that's what we had for an entire show. It's like it was the search for, Ezra Bridger and trying to prevent Thrawn from returning, but they accomplish that goal, but in the process, they get stuck. And I think it's kind of just a bittersweet ending. And I want them to just have that cliffhanger ending and make it, whether you like it or not, lead into the Dave Filoni movie. I feel like this show is the equivalent of Avengers Infinity War, where the bad guys lose. They have a bittersweet ending where they lose, but not everybody's dead. and everyone's positioned where they're supposed to be for the gigantic finale battle, which is, of course, Avengers Endgame. And I want that Avengers Endgame moment to be shown on the big screen in a Star Wars movie. I don't want it to be in Ahsoka Season 2. If they do, obviously they're going to do Mandalorian Season 4, so they're going to build up some more lore and world building in that show. We're going to get the Star Wars Acolyte show. Based on what it looks like Old Republic, so we might get Old Republic, Clone Wars, prequels, Rebels era, original trilogy era, characters and plots and planets and locations all in one gigantic finale. And I feel like the Dave Filoni movie is going to be the Avengers Endgame equivalent in Star Wars, being the equivalent of rebooting and destroying. It's going to reboot the sequel trilogy, and it's going to destroy them as well. And I'm happy for that, if they can do it well enough. So, diving into the show, now that I'm done talking about the ending, I'm going to just finish watching it before doing this review. I'm happy to see live-action versions of Ahsoka, Sabine Wren, Chopper, Hera Syndulla, Thrawn, Hera's son Jason. We get to see glimpses of Clone Wars Rex in the show. Anakin Skywalker is in here. Obviously, Ezra Bridger. The only character that didn't get a live-action appearance that is alive is Zeb. We saw Zeb briefly in Mandalorian Season 3, but he's not in the show. He's not even really mentioned. Kanan Jarrus does get mentioned, which is kind of cool. Next, I want to talk about the fact that the show, even though it is called Ahsoka, it feels more like Star Wars Rebels Season 5. And I think a lot of people understood that when they released the trailers based just on that. A lot of people were like, okay, it's the search for Ezra Bridger. So it's Rebels Season 5. But Rebels Season 5 can't happen live action. It doesn't sound cool enough. People won't watch it. But if you call your show the Ahsoka show, you got people watching immediately, because not only are you getting the Rebels fans, but you're also getting the Clone Wars fans. And that's what it does. It focuses more on, unfortunately, finding Ezra Bridger and Thrawn, and less about Ahsoka and Ahsoka trying to rebuild the Jedi Order. It focuses more on Sabine Wren also, and I'll get into that more later in the video. But it doesn't feel like it focuses on Ahsoka. There are certain episodes that are dedicated to her. There are certain moments within other episodes that are dedicated to Ahsoka. But unfortunately, the show is not centered on Ahsoka. It is focused on so many other aspects, because there's so many other moving parts. Not only do we have returning characters coming back from past Star Wars lore, but we also are getting introduced to a bunch of new characters, locations, and what's happening with the fact that the Empire has fallen and been dissolved. Also, if you haven't seen the past Star Wars projects, it's okay. You can still watch this show without having watched Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. If you have no knowledge of that whatsoever, you still can watch. You can still watch this show and enjoy it. Now, if you've watched Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, you're going to appreciate this show a lot more. But there's an opening crawl. The first episode or two does a great job easing you into what's going on in this time period after Return of the Jedi. Also, the show does take place after Mandalorian Season 3, so if you're curious of the chronological order of events, this show does pick up after the events of Mandalorian Season 3. So, as it stands right now, chronologically, it's Mandalorian Season 1, sprinkled in with some elements from Book of Boba Fett, then finish Season 1. Then you have Mandalorian Season 2, finish Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 3, and then the Ahsoka show. Obi-Wan Kenobi, obviously, and Andor take place before Mandalorian, because they're set in the prequel era, after Revenge of the Sith. So, moving on, I think there's a lot of surprise characters and cameos in here, especially from Clone Wars, Rebels, and Mandalorian. The city of Lothal is in here, and I think they did a great job making it look like an action set piece. It definitely looks great. Learning that Morgan is a Night Sister and she is a survivor of the Separatist wipeout on Dathomir was really cool. I think the musical score throughout the entire show is great. Fantastic action sequences, especially with lightsabers and ships and such. I know I'm going to probably piss some people off, but, the show definitely has a lot of female-centered characters in this show. I mean, you've got Hera Syndulla, you've got Sabine Wren, you've got Ahsoka, you've got Mon Mothma, you get several other peoples. The female characters that are in this show, they're not overpowered, they're not Mary Sue's, and they're not constantly attacking male characters. I know you're probably thinking, well, there's this one senator. Well, I think this one senator, even though he is a man and he's constantly being berated by Hera Syndulla, I think he is not only a imperial spy as a senator, but I think he's just an idiot, and he's kind of leading into the fact that the New Republic was just stupid for the most part. And we see that in the sequel trilogy, that the New Republic were just a bunch of morons, which allowed the First Order and the Final Order to just, build Starkiller Base and wipe them out. So I don't know if they're leading into that, but it sure did feel like it. Interesting concept of Ahsoka Tano training Sabine Wren with lightsaber combat, even though Sabine Wren has no Force connection. Yes, at the end of the show, she does end up having a Force connection. She does have the classification by the end of the show as a Jedi. So if you look up Sabine Wren online, she has been classified because of the show now as a Jedi. So she's been trained to try to use it, but, being a Mandalorian and being a Jedi is kind of hard. How she becomes a Jedi, I don't want to spoil too much. But it is kind of an interesting concept that everybody in the entire Star Wars universe can use the Force. It's just, it requires training and patience and practice. And through the show, I do feel like, she does end up growing to the point where, okay, she's been trained, she's been having to let go of things. She has mentally and physically become a Jedi by the end of the show. And I do enjoy that. We do get some Jedi that survive Order 66, and they become Sith-like bounty hunters, and they basically are kind of like mercenaries. They're kind of cool villains in the show, but they really don't do all that much. They're more like a pest. They're really not a main threat. They really aren't all that of a threat. Especially for the later half of the show, they kind of just fall into the background. They're not even in like the last 2 episodes all that much. The droid humor, especially from Hugo, played by David Tennant, did a great job. I think it works great. It's done in small amounts. The humor in this show, it's done in small amounts, and it doesn't break up the tension, which I really enjoyed. Moving on to something I hated. Episode 1 ends with Sabine Wren getting stabbed by a lightsaber. And when it happened, I was like, wait a minute, they just killed off Sabine Wren in the first episode of the Ahsoka show. I'm like, what? What? Wait a minute. This is Disney. She's fine. Start episode 2. Oh, she's fine. I hate this Disney-fied lightsaber stabbing in the gut thing where it doesn't kill you. They did that in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show too. And I hate it. And I know there is some sort of scientific explanation. Oh, it got her here, and because it was like 3 inches away from a major organ, she's perfectly fine. You guys remember when somebody got attacked by a lightsaber and it like cut off an arm and it was severe? Or how about, when Darth Maul got chopped in half in episode 1, The Phantom Menace? Or, just anybody that gets some sort of lightsaber induced or some sort of lightsaber afflicted injury, it was catastrophic. But because Disney controls Star Wars now, it's like, oh, it's just a little toy. It's not going to hurt you that bad if you get hit by, thousands of degrees of hot plasma. Her instant healing and her not having any consequences for her actions, no life-altering effects, is just stupid. And I'm going to say this, Sabine Wren in this show kind of felt like a Jar Jar Binks. Like, nothing bad could happen to her. She is constantly making stupid decisions throughout the entire show in order for the plot to move forward, and I hate it. I hate the fact also that Ezra and Sabine Wren, they're no longer lovers. They're not in love at all. They have no romantic relationship, unlike the fact that they did at the beginning of the Rebels show. And it's clear by the final episode of the Rebels show that Sabine and Ezra did have a romantic relationship. However small it was, they did have romantic feelings for each other, and now they've just been friend-zoned. Like, the romance is just gone. Now they're just brother and sister. And it's like Disney is afraid of having a romantic sort of plot within Star Wars. I'm like, Disney, there was a romantic subplot, even though it was kind of stupid, between Luke and Leia and Han Solo in the original trilogy. And we had Anakin Skywalker and Padme in the prequels. I mean, you even had a romantic relationship, however bizarre, stupid, and illogical it was, between Rey Palpatine and Kylo Ren in your sequel trilogy. Why can't you make Sabine Wren and Ezra Bridger a couple in this show, in this Dave Filoni universe? Why can't it happen? It just frustrates me. Episode 3 has numerous references to Obi-Wan training Luke with the droids and New Hope kind of references. Also, we get a General Grievous reference and a Millennium Falcon versus TIE Fighter reference too from A New Hope. So episode 3 was just a lot of references and callbacks, which was really cool, and it did help move the plot forward a lot. Seeing Mon Mothma as the new Chancellor of the Republic was cool. Yes, I know a lot of people can be pissed off at the fact, oh look, it's a woman and she's now the new Chancellor. She's the new President of the entire New Republic. Hate to break it to you, but even if you don't like the fact that the woman is the new President of the galaxy, she is the only senator that not only is the last remaining senator alive because of what the Empire did, but she is also the only senator with enough experience being a part of the Senate during the Clone Wars era that she also defected to the rebellion. Now, there were other senators that did de facto to the rebellion against the Empire, but she has the most experience, which is why she would become the Chancellor, because of her time and her service invested in trying to keep peace and liberty and freedom within the galaxy. Yes, Bail Organa could be a runner-up as Chancellor, but he didn't serve as long as Mon Mothma did. So that is my logical explanation as to why she was, voted in as new Chancellor of the New Republic. Episode 4 ends with Ahsoka being in the time room, and it leads to the fact that she gets to meet Anakin Skywalker. I think the CGI for Anakin Skywalker was really well done. I really enjoyed it, especially in episode 5 where we get a bunch of Clone Wars flashbacks. Really spectacular. Enjoyed that. Episode 6, we finally get to see Thrawn and Ezra Bridger, and we get to dive into some of the unknown regions of the galaxy. I really enjoyed that. Episode 7 has a lot of cool action sequences, and we get to deal with some more New Republic politics. C-3PO does make a cameo in that episode. I think it was really well done. I was really cheering. I really enjoyed it. And then moving on to the final episode of Episode 8, I was happy that Ezra Bridger did get a lightsaber. This is a pet peeve I had with Episode 7, is that in Episode 7, he just refuses to not use his lightsaber during combat scenes and only the Force. Episode 8, he gets on the Jedi Star Cruiser, and he ends up constructing a lightsaber, which is really cool. Get a bunch of awesome Night Sister magic. Really enjoyed that. Obviously, Sabine becomes a Jedi. She ends up getting the ability to use the Force, and she saves herself from zombie stormtroopers. Yes, zombie stormtroopers have officially been deemed canon. They happen in this show, which is really cool. I'm liking the fact that, Dave Filoni is starting to bring in Legends-like material and stuff from past video games and bringing things in that not only George Lucas wrote and was just deemed non-canon because it was too far out there, but we're getting things from books and other sources of material finally making their way to be canon in Star Wars. So lastly, I think a lot of people are going to complain this show is kind of a slow burn. It does take a lot of time to get invested with the characters and the plots and the motivations of what's happening. But if you allow yourself to get past, especially the first 2 episodes, because the first 2 episodes are like an hour long each, and they do a lot of not only build up to what's happening for the rest of the show, but it's also trying to get people to remember what happened with Clone Wars and Rebels and Mandalorian. It's also trying to get people that didn't watch those shows invested into what's happening and give them a general overview of what's happening in the galaxy. So, first 2 episodes, they are very long, but they have a purpose because of that. But once you get into episode 3 and you start getting going with the rest of the show, it's an enjoyable watch. So, overall, guys, I enjoyed the Ahsoka show. I think you guys should watch it if you guys haven't yet. And with that, I'm giving Ahsoka the entire show an 8 out of 10. Let me know, do you guys enjoy the show? Why or why not in the comment section down below. Are you guys excited for the Dave Filoni movie and or an Ahsoka Season 2? Have a great day. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, may the Force be with you. Bye, guys. See that? See what I right did there? That would kill people in normal Star Wars. But in Disney, no, 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 no. May the Force be with you guys, always.